I don't know. He's coming to see me. I'm not sure what he wants to see me about, but I guess he wants to make a deal. Everybody does. They all want to make a deal because we have something that they all want.
Oh, God. So that's Donald Trump. I'm not sure what he's coming to see me about. I can't imagine Donald Trump would have a clue. First, he thought he was coming next week. James Mennie is at the Montreal Gazette. So, Jim, what's your take on all of this?
So, listen, the first thing I think we have to get clear is that, and as I'm the first one to say, he's an absolute raving lunatic, but he still does have a devious sense of fun. On Sunday evening, Donald Trump announced, among other things, that he wanted to recommission Alcatraz prison to put all the dangerous criminals in America away. And he also announced that he was going to order 100% tariffs on all movies made outside of the United States of America. Just for our listeners' benefit, that's a $4 billion industry in Canada. So all of a sudden, just before, even though he has no idea why he's coming, apparently, Donald Trump has a big fat tariff, a new tariff, to slap down in front of Mark Carney. So, and of course, it's a matter of trying to put him off balance. And of course, it's a matter of trying to seize the agenda. But the fact remains, whether we like it or not, or whether he likes it or not, Mark Carney has been identified as the sort of face of the resistance to Trump. We're seeing a kind of a domino effect as well. Last weekend in Australia, it was almost a carbon copy of our federal election. The incumbent who leads the Labour Party, which is more like the Liberal Party, he looked like he was going to get kicked out. But anti-Trump backlash in Australia led to his winning a second term and pushing out a more conservative challenger who had been leading up until a point. I mean, it's kind of like almost spooky, the parallels between their election and ours. But the fact is, Donald Trump, above and beyond everything else, is a demonstrable coward. And I really think what you're seeing is a guy who's increasingly scared of a meeting with Mark Carney, which is why he's belittling it. He's coming to say, it's probably here to make a deal. Like, in other words, I got to see Carney, and then the guy's coming in for the pipes and the drapes, so I got to talk to them afterwards. But this is no big deal. It's a huge deal. It's a huge deal, and I think as much and justifiably as Carney and his entourage will be cautious and perhaps nervous, I think Trump is also very, very jittery, because if he turns around and tries to sort of play some kind of bully, or as some people have said, if he tries to, he's not going to pull a Zelensky on Mark Carney. In fact, he's going to have to be a little more cordial than he has been in the past, if only because his attempts to bully China backfired spectacularly. There is no real sentiment in the U.S., even amongst his own supporters, to sort of go after Canada. And the whole, excuse me, the whole annexation thing is getting a little bit tired. Even that clip that we played earlier in the show, let's face it, and I found that to be the most nauseating element of the entire interview, was the reporter herself kind of showing him a cue to say, what about annexing Canada? Will you be talking to Prime Minister Carney about that? I mean, it's all such mise en scène. It is all such a dog and pony show in the States now. But honestly, I believe that Donald Trump is nervous. You'll probably see a very conciliatory, very kind of, what do you mean? Why is everyone coming after me? I'm very stunned. Look at that. He's a very nice man, that Mark Carney. I don't think he'll try publicly to embarrass Mark Carney. I can bet you dollars to donuts, though, Aaron, that he will do everything in his power to shiv Carney and this country behind the scenes in any kind of a trade deal. And I think the announcement about the tariffs on foreign film production, which apparently cannot go through, but nothing, laws have not stopped Donald Trump in the past. I think that's just a part of that.
In terms of what Mark Carney can actually walk away with and be able to say, I met with him, here's what I got. What do you think? I mean, tangibly, what can he come away with here? Like a reduced tariff from 25% to 10% and have that regarded as a win?
Oh, he's going to walk out with nothing. I think if he walks out with his head held high, with having stood his ground, or even appearing to stand his ground against Donald Trump, that's going to be a win. I don't think anybody who voted for Mark Carney was expecting him to go in there on Tuesday and get all this settled. In fact, before the election, we were talking about, it's a wartime cabinet and this and that. I think people in this country are genuinely ready to go head to head with the U.S. in a trade war. I know it's going to be tough. And I honestly think Canadians are far more ready than Americans to engage in any kind of shortages, problems created by Trump's tariffs. But the bottom line here, I think Carney's just going to go in. He's going to talk to the guy. He will probably prevent, Trump from trying to put him into a corner or put him into as what Tom Mulcair referred to as the dunce's chair. And if he comes out unscathed, that in and of itself is going to be a win. But as I say, we also have to find out how all those other meetings went with Melanie Joly and the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs and national security and so on and so forth.
So let me shift to something that kind of caught me by surprise. I'm watching the news last night, and I see a report on CTV of the provincial Liberal candidates all having a big meeting at John Abbott, all 5 of them, and then find out that's their only English meeting. I'm like, did they think to let anybody know that this was going on?
Well, Aaron, you've kind of summed up the whole situation, because there are going to be 6 debates. They'll be held in various venues across this great province of ours between now and the mid-June election date for the leadership of the Quebec Liberal Party. Saturday's French language debate was in Laval. I didn't see that. I relied on news coverage, and my colleagues were basically, the consensus was, c'est pas mal plate. It's like there were no fireworks. It was like everyone was super, super polite. And I have to tell you, Aaron, because, I would jump on a grenade for this show, I actually watched the YouTube capture of the English language debate that was held at John Abbott. And honestly, if there was a drinking game to be played, it would have been every time one of the candidates said, "Oh, I agree with you." I mean, the fact is there was not a lot of friction in this debate. However, as Quebec Anglo, born and raised here, I have to confess my hackles went up when I see all these candidates saying about how terrible Bill 96 is and how things have got to change. It has to, we had varying degrees of either getting rid of it or perhaps tweaking it. What struck me was hearing Charles Milliard basically say Quebec needs a premier who believes in Canada. I think it'll be interesting to see if he repeats that line throughout the course of the campaign in the French language debate, or indeed any other stops that he makes elsewhere in the province. But I got to tell you, as a Quebec Anglo, I am taking anything a Quebec Liberal says about English language rights in Quebec with several metric tons of salt, because the record shows that they have traditionally said one thing and done another, and in some cases bent over backwards to even exceed the worst nationalist separatists when it came to ensuring that the English language got boxed in and contained like some kind of virus. So we'll see how it goes. But honestly, the very fact that you had no clue about this, and folks, if you haven't figured it out, Aaron Rand's a political junkie, but even so, the great job Quebec Liberals are doing about promoting this leadership race was such that that he didn't see it. I thought, honest to God, I knew the debates were going on. We advanced it. We covered both of them. But the fact is, this is going to be a real challenge. And I've warned about this because the Liberals figured, you know what? The entire world can wait. We'll get around to this when we're ready. We're going to take our time. The fact is they have been so overcome by events that right now, and with all due respect to the candidates, most of Quebec probably isn't listening, and if they did, they wouldn't care about anything they have to say about anything whatsoever, simply because they're not on the map, simply because they're not part of that equation, and simply because they continue, as far as I'm concerned, to run the Quebec Liberal Party like some kind of country club. In other words, you can come in, you can visit. We'll have an open day where you can come and tour the grounds. But the fact is, the Quebec Liberal Party, to me, and this is just my opinion, remains aloof, out of touch, and quite frankly, when it talks about being the party of the economy, it basically means the party of business interests and business people. And if we can, we'll get around to you. But if we have to be politically pragmatic, believe me, we are so adept at throwing linguistic minorities under the bus, we wouldn't think about doing it again.
Kind of begs the question, doesn't it, Jim? Then does it matter who leads at the end of the day? If this is sort of the opinion of the party as a whole, what's the difference who you end up with as your leader?
Well, this is the problem, though. And I don't get the impression. I mean, clearly the candidates have brought their supporters to cheer them on. I don't get the impression that the Liberal Party that was able to run the table in Quebec under Jean Charest, that was very, very present in the regions, and lost because it's turned its back on the rank and file. I don't get the feeling that any of that has changed. And honestly, I am not entirely sure, despite the fact that the CAQ is sinking with all hands, even as we speak. And I think the current situation with Trump et al. Makes the PQ a very risky bet in terms of its referendum plans. I don't look at them as an odds-on favorite. I don't look at them as being a factor, a political factor, as yet in Quebec politics.
Wow, and that's on the verge of, I mean, then again, you know what? It doesn't take much for things to begin to change, I guess, given how badly things are going for the CAQ.
All you need is one dynamic leader to turn around and turn things around. Thus far, like I say, I kind of did a double take when I heard Charles Milliard say that. I said that because that's the first time I think I've heard any Quebec politician say that. But is that going to continue, or was that just for local consumption out in St. Anne de Bellevue? I'm not entirely sure. But, I mean, we'll have to see how it goes. But obviously, and you're living proof of that, they have really got to do a better job of getting their message out.
James Mennie at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
Demain.